The crystal floors never stopped gleaming, no matter how many times Lyra scrubbed them. She moved her cloth in slow circles across the polished surface, watching distorted reflections of students pass overhead. They floated on platforms of pure thought, their minds powerful enough to lift their bodies without effort. None of them looked down. Why would they? The floor was just there, clean and perfect, maintained by people they never needed to see. Lyra had been invisible for 4 years now, ever since her 12th birthday came and went without the awakening. Every child on Vayara manifested their gift at 12. Telepathy, telekinesis, precognition, or elemental control. The ceremony was sacred. Families gathered. Everyone waited for that moment when a child's eyes would glow and the world would bend to their, Lyra's eyes never glowed. She waited for 3 days past her birthday, then a week, then a month. The doctors ran tests. Her parents, both master telepaths, searched her mind for any spark of ability. Nothing. She was empty, a void in a world of power. The Crystalline Academy accepted her anyway, but not as a student. Someone had to clean the meditation halls and organize the libraries. Someone had to maintain the buildings while the gifted ones learned to reshape reality. Lyra became that someone. Her parents sent her away with relief in their eyes. She was proof that even powerful bloodlines could produce failures. Today was the Ascension ceremony. The Academy's top students would demonstrate their abilities for visiting dignitaries from across the sector. Lyra worked faster, trying to finish before the crowd arrived. Her hands were red from the cleaning solutions. She wore the gray uniform of service staff, designed to blend into walls and corners. The main hall filled with light as the ceremony began. Lyra ducked into a side corridor, heading toward the storage rooms where she belonged. She could hear the announcer's voice echoing through the building, listing names and achievements. Each name drew applause. Each demonstration of power drew gasps of wonder. Then the windows exploded inward. Lyra dropped to the floor as glass rained down. Screams replaced applause. She looked up to see figures in black armor dropping through the shattered ceiling. They carried weapons that crackled with energy. One of them raised a device that hummed with a frequency that made Lyra's teeth ache. The floating students fell from the air. Their platforms of thought vanished. They hit the ground hard, confusion replacing confidence. One student thrust her hands forward, trying to summon fire. Nothing happened. Another reached out with his mind, attempting to crush the invaders with telekinesis. His face went pale with effort and fear. His gift was gone. Pirates from the outer reach. Lyra had read about them in the old archives. They raided psychic worlds with neural dampeners, technology that shut down mental abilities. The gifted societies never prepared for conventional threats. Why would they? Who could stand against the power of thought itself? Lyra could. She had no gifts to lose. She crawled toward the eastern corridor, staying low. The pirates were rounding up students, forcing them toward the center of the hall. Their leader, a tall figure with a scarred face, barked orders. They were taking hostages. Lyra recognized the tactics from Earth military histories she had studied during lonely nights in the library. The Outer Reach pirates often had human defectors among their ranks, bringing tactical knowledge to their raids that a hand caught her shoulder. Lyra spun, ready to fight with the only weapon she had, her fists in desperation. She found herself looking at a human man in a red jacket. The color was bright against the chaos, impossible to miss. He held up his other hand in a peaceful gesture. "Easy," he said quietly. "I'm Owen Reed, Earth Diplomatic Corps. You're the only person I've seen moving with any sense. Everyone else is either frozen in panic or trying powers that don't work." Lyra stared at him. A human. She had never met one before. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only recently, offering military consultation and diplomatic services. They had no psychic abilities, which made most of Avara's citizens dismiss them as primitives. The neural dampeners. Owen continued, his eyes scanning the room. "You're not affected because you don't have abilities to dampen. Am I right?" Lyra nodded slowly. It was the first time anyone had asked her a question like that. Not with pity or disgust, but with tactical interest. "Good. I need your help. Do you know this building? Every centimeter, Lyra whispered. I clean it. I maintain it. I know passages the students don't even realize exist. Owen's expression shifted to something that looked like respect. Then you're exactly who I need. Can you get us out of this hall without being seen? Lyra looked past him at the pirates herding students together. She saw the headmaster on his knees, his face gray with shock. She saw her former classmates, the ones who had mocked her, now helpless without their gifts. Part of her wanted to leave them to their fate. They had made her life miserable, but Owen was looking at her like she mattered, like her knowledge had value, like being powerless in a world of power was actually an advantage right now. This way, she said, and started moving toward a maintenance panel on the wall. There's a service tunnel that leads to the library wing. They won't know to guard it. Owen followed her without question. As they slipped through the panel, Lyra heard the pirate leader announce that anyone who resisted would be sold to the highest bidder. The thought made her stomach turn. She led Owen through narrow passages lit by emergency strips. Their footsteps echoed softly on metal grating. Behind them, the sounds of the raid continued. Ahead, Lyra had no idea what came next. But for the first time in 4 years, someone needed her. Not to clean floors or organize supplies. Someone needed what she knew, what she had learned in all those invisible hours. Owen Reed in his red jacket had refused to ignore her. Maybe that was enough to start. The service tunnels smelled like ozone and old metal. Lyra moved through them with practiced ease, her fingers trailing along the walls to find junction marks in the dim light. Owen followed close behind, his red jacket brushing against the narrow passage walls. How long had you worked here? Owen asked quietly. For years, since I failed to manifest. Lyra kept her voice low. Sound carried strangely in these tunnels. They needed someone to maintain the systems. The gifted students can move objects with their minds, but they don't understand how the power grid actually works. Why would they learn? They can just think things into happening. Until they can't, Owen said. There was no judgment in his tone, just observation. Lyra stopped at a junction and pressed her ear against the wall. Vibrations traveled through the structure, telling her where people moved in the rooms beyond. It was something she had learned from necessity. When you couldn't sense minds or feel energy fields, you learned to read the physical world instead. They're spreading out, she said. The pirates. They're searching rooms on the second level. You can tell that from vibrations. The building talks if you listen. The gifted ones never needed to learn that language. Lyra turned left, heading deeper into the maintenance network. Where were you when the attack started? Guest observation deck. I'm here as part of Earth's cultural exchange program. We send diplomats to psychic worlds to learn about mental disciplines. Owen's laugh was bitter. The Academy administration made it clear they were humoring us. Primitives trying to understand superior beings. But you're not affected by the dampeners. No. Earth's military encountered neural suppression technology decades ago. We adapted. That's what humans do. We don't have natural advantages, so we learn to work around problems instead of through them. Owen paused. I saw you earlier today, in the East Garden. You were repairing a fountain. Lyra felt heat rise in her cheeks. She hadn't realized anyone noticed her. The water recycler was failing. If I didn't fix it, the garden would have died before anyone with gifts bothered to see the problem. That's what I mean. You see things they miss. That's not a weakness. That's a different kind of strength. They emerged into the library wing through a panel behind the historical archives. The vast room was empty. Books and data crystals lined the walls, centuries of collected knowledge. Lyra had read most of them during her lonely evenings. The gifted students rarely visited. Why read about the past when you could reshape the future with a thought? Owen moved to a window and looked out carefully. I can see the main courtyard from here. They've got at least 30 hostages gathered. More pirates than I initially counted. This is a major operation. Lyra joined him at the window. Her stomach twisted at the sight of students on their knees. The headmaster was speaking to the pirate leader, probably trying to negotiate. It wouldn't work. Lyra had read enough about outer reach tactics to know they respected strength, not diplomacy. I need to contact my ship, Owen said. But they're jamming all standard communications. Do you know if there's a hardline system anywhere? Something old that they might not think to block? Lyra thought for a moment. The observatory. It has a physical link to the satellite network. The astronomy students use it to track stellar phenomena. It's analog technology, very basic. The pirates might not even recognize it as a communication system. Can you get us there? Yes, but we'll have to cross through the meditation hall. There's no service tunnel that reaches the observatory tower. Owen considered this. How exposed is the route? Very. The meditation hall has no cover. It's designed as an open space for psychic exercises. Lyra felt her hands shake slightly. She had spent 4 years avoiding attention, staying invisible. Now she was planning to cross an open area during an active raid. Owen must have noticed her fear. Hey, look at me. She turned to face him. His expression was serious, but not pitying. You survived 4 years in a place that told you that you didn't matter. That takes more courage than most people ever need. This is just one more thing you're going to survive. And you're not alone. I'm with you. The words settled something in Lyra's chest. She had been alone for so long that she had forgotten what partnership felt like. Okay, she said. Follow my lead. Move when I move. Stop when I stop. The hall has blind spots if you know where to look. They left the library through the main entrance. The corridor beyond was silent except for distant shouts from the occupied areas. Lyra led Owen to the meditation hall's side entrance. She peered through the door's window. The hall was massive, a circular space with a domed ceiling. Meditation platforms floated in the center, now inactive without psychic power to sustain them. 2 pirates stood guard at the far entrance, but they were watching the main corridor, not the interior. Lyra pointed to a path along the wall where decorative pillars provided cover. Owen nodded understanding. They slipped inside and moved from pillar to pillar. Lyra's heart hammered in her chest. Every footstep sounded too loud. Every breath felt like a shout. Halfway across, one of the guards turned. Lyra froze behind a pillar. Owen pressed against the wall beside her. They waited. The guard's attention shifted back to the corridor. False alarm, they continued moving. The observatory entrance was just ahead. Lyra reached it first and checked the door. Unlocked. She and Owen slipped through and climbed the spiral stairs beyond. The observatory was a glass dome filled with telescopes and monitoring equipment. Lyra went straight to the communication console. It was outdated technology, the kind the Academy kept only because removing it was more effort than leaving it alone. This can reach your ship? Owen asked. If they're in orbit, yes. It's a direct laser link. The pirates can't jam it without knowing it exists. Lyra's fingers moved across the controls. She had maintained this system for years. She knew every setting, a connection established. Owen took the microphone and spoke rapidly in Earth military codes. Lyra listened to him coordinate with his people. He explained the situation with precise, tactical language. Help was coming, but it would take time. Time they might not have. They're saying 2 hours minimum, Owen said after signing off. The pirates will have finished looting and left by then. We need to slow them down. Lyra looked out at the academy below. Somewhere in those buildings were students who had ignored her, teachers who had dismissed her, parents who had abandoned her. But there were also younger children who had done nothing wrong except be born into a cruel system. And there was Owen, who saw her as an equal. I know how to slow them down, Lyra said, but you're not going to like it. Owen listened to Lyra's plan with growing concern written across his face. She stood at the observatory window, pointing out key locations in the academy complex below. The dampening field has a central generator in the east tower, she explained, but it's protected by 6 satellite nodes spread throughout the building. Take out the generator and the backups activate. But if we disable the nodes in the right sequence, we can create power fluctuations. Fluctuations won't free the students, Owen said. No, but they'll make the pirates think their equipment is failing. They'll divert resources to investigate. That buys time and creates confusion. Lyra traced patterns on the glass. The maintenance access codes can shut down individual nodes. I know every code. The gifted administrators never change them because they never thought about security from someone like me. Owen was quiet for a moment. Someone like you. You mean someone they trained to be invisible? Yes. Lyra turned from the window. I've been mapping this building in my head for 4 years. Every system, every backup, every failure point. The Academy runs on infrastructure that nobody with gifts pays attention to. I pay attention. It's all I have. It's more than you think. Owen pulled out a small device from his jacket. This is an Earth design scanner. Basic technology by our standards, but it can interface with older systems. If you can get me to the nodes, I can help you override them faster. We'll need to split up. The nodes are on different floors. If we work together, it'll take too long. No. Owen's voice was firm. We stay together. I'm not leaving you alone in a building full of armed raiders. I've been alone here for 4 years. I know how to not be seen. That was before you started sabotaging a pirate operation. Once they realize someone's interfering, they'll start looking. And if they catch you, he didn't finish the sentence. Lyra understood what he meant. The pirates would make an example of her. Fear was a weapon they used effectively. Then we need a different approach, she said. What if we don't hide what we're doing? What if we make it obvious? Explain. The pirates think everyone here is helpless without psychic powers. They're not wrong about the students and teachers. But there are 37 service staff in this academy. Maintenance workers, kitchen staff, cleaners. All of us are invisible to the gifted. None of us are affected by the dampeners. Lyra felt her pulse quicken as the idea formed. What if we organize them? Create multiple disruptions across the building at once. Owen's expression shifted from concern to interest. Coordinated resistance. Hit them from angles they're not watching. But we need to contact the other staff without alerting the pirates. The service communication system. It runs on the building's basic electrical grid. The pirates wouldn't recognize it as important. It looks like a simple intercom from maintenance scheduling. Show me. Lyra led him to a panel in the observatory's equipment room. She opened it to reveal an old-fashioned handset and keypad. The system was decades old, installed before psychic communication made such devices obsolete. Only the service staff still used it. She picked up the handset and keyed in a specific code. A soft tone indicated a building-wide connection to all service stations. "This is Lyra in the observatory," she said quietly. "If you can hear me and you're safe, key in your location code." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the panel began displaying numbers. Kitchen level 3. Laundry sublevel 2. Workshop East Wing. More codes appeared. Lyra counted 23 responses. "Good," Owen said. "Now tell them what we need." Lyra took a breath. She had never given orders before. She had only ever followed them. But Owen was looking at her with expectation, not doubt. "Listen carefully," she said into the handset. "The pirates are using neural dampeners that don't affect us. We're going to use that advantage. On my signal, I need specific actions. Kitchen staff, start depressurizing the occupied sections slowly. Make it uncomfortable, not dangerous. Maintenance workers, begin cycling the environmental systems. Hot and cold zones at random. Workshop team, if you can safely access tools, prepare to disable security locks on unoccupied wings. Make them think their control is failing everywhere at once." She looked at Owen. He nodded encouragement. "Most importantly, stay safe. Don't take risks that could get you hurt. We're buying time for help to arrive. 2 hours. We just need to create chaos for 2 hours." The responses came back quickly. Acknowledgement codes from each team. They were ready. These people understood being overlooked and underestimated. Now they had a chance to matter. "Coordination is everything," Owen said. "I've seen military operations fall apart because of poor timing. When do we start?" Lyra checked the observatory's chronometer. 15 minutes. That gives everyone time to reach their positions. We'll start with the kitchen team's environmental changes. Once the pirates react to that, the workshop team moves. Then maintenance hits the power fluctuations. Waves of disruption, not all at once. And what will we be doing? Taking out the dampener nodes. While they're distracted by everything else. Lyra pulled up a schematic on one of the observatory's displays. 3 nodes are in unoccupied areas. We can reach them without being seen if we're careful. Owen studied the schematic. This one in the sublevel looks most isolated. We start there, yes, then work our way up. By the time we reach the third node, the building will be in enough chaos that our actions will blend in. You've thought this through. I've had 4 years to think. About this building. About the people who never saw me. About what I would do if I ever got the chance to make them notice. Lyra closed the schematic. I never thought the chance would come like this. Plans rarely work out how we imagine, Owen said. But the best operations are built by people who know the ground they're fighting on. You know this ground better than anyone. They left the observatory together. The 15 minutes passed quickly as they made their way to the sublevel through service passages. Lyra's hands were steady now. Purpose had replaced fear. 8 exactly the scheduled time. The environmental changes began. Lyra heard the subtle shift in air pressure through the walls. Somewhere above them, pirates were starting to notice temperature changes and air circulation problems. Now, Owen said, they moved toward the first dampener node. 2 people who weren't supposed to matter, about to prove exactly how wrong that assumption was. The sublevel dampener node sat in a mechanical room that hummed with the sound of air processors and water pumps. Lyra had cleaned this room 100 times. She knew which floor panels were loose and which pipes rattled when the system cycled. The pirates had placed their equipment in the center of the room, trusting that the building's normal occupants couldn't reach it without psychic abilities to overcome locked doors. They hadn't planned for someone with maintenance override codes. Owen knelt beside the dampener node, his scanner interfacing with the pirate equipment. This is sophisticated technology, military grade, not the usual raider surplus. Someone funded this operation well. Can you disable it? Lyra kept watch at the door. I can disrupt it. Full shutdown would trigger alarms in their command center. But if I introduce a fluctuation pattern that matches environmental interference, they might think it's a malfunction rather than sabotage. Do it. Owen worked quickly, his fingers moving across his scanner's interface. The dampener's display flickered. Lyra felt a strange, tingling sensation, like pressure releasing from the air around them. Done. The field strength is dropping by 2% every 30 seconds. Slow enough that they won't notice immediately, but it'll compound. In about 10 minutes, this section suppression will be noticeably weaker. Above them, Lyra heard footsteps. Heavy boots on metal stairs. Someone was coming down. Hide, she whispered urgently. Owen slipped behind a large air processing unit. Lyra grabbed a cleaning rag from a nearby shelf and began wiping down a control panel. Her heart raced, but her hands stayed steady. She had played this role for 4 years. The invisible servant, always present, never important. 2 pirates entered the room. They wore black armor with red insignias. One carried a weapon, the other held a diagnostic tablet. Environmental control is acting up, the one with the tablet said. Command thinks someone's tampering with the systems. In here, the armed pirate looked around dismissively. It's just machinery. And some servant. Lyra kept her eyes down, continuing to clean. She made herself small, unremarkable. The pirate's gazes passed over her like she was part of the equipment. Check the readings anyway. Captain Rook wants confirmation that all dampener nodes are functioning. The pirate with the tablet approached the node. Lyra's pulse hammered. Owen was 5 meters away, hidden but trapped. If they did a thorough search, they would find him. The pirate tapped his tablet, frowning. The field strength shows minor fluctuations. Could be interference from the environmental systems cycling. Should we report it? It's within acceptable parameters. Probably just the building's old infrastructure causing electromagnetic noise. These psychic academies never upgrade their basic systems. They're too busy teaching kids to float. The armed pirate laughed. Let them float. Makes them easier to catch when the dampeners hit. Come on, we've got 3 more nodes to check. They left without another glance at Lyra. She waited until their footsteps faded completely before allowing herself to breathe normally. Owen emerged from hiding. That was too close. They didn't see me. They never do. Lyra put down her cleaning rag. But we need to move faster. If they're checking all the nodes, we might run into them again. They made their way to the second node, located in a storage wing. This one went faster. Owen's scanner had learned the dampener's programming from the first node. The disruption took only 3 minutes to implement. But yes, they worked. Lyra heard her service communicator chirp softly. She activated it. Kitchen team reporting. Pirates have sent 2 guards to investigate our section. We've diverted them to a stuck freezer door. They're trying to force it open manually. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. Keep them busy. Workshop team, status. We've unlocked the East Corridor security doors. The pirates think it's a system glitch. They're arguing about whether to seal the area or investigate. Good. Let them argue. The third node was the dangerous one. It sat in the main administrative level, close to where the pirates held their hostages. Lyra and Owen approached carefully, using service corridors that ran parallel to the main halls. Through ventilation grates, Lyra could see students huddled together in the central gathering space. They looked terrified and small without their abilities. Teachers sat among them, equally helpless. The headmaster was speaking quietly with Captain Rook, probably still trying to negotiate. We can't reach that node without crossing the main corridor, Owen whispered. Too exposed. Wait. Lyra checked her communicator. Maintenance team, are you ready with the power fluctuations? Ready. We can trigger a cascade in sectors 4 through 7. Do it now. Target sector 6 specifically. Make it dramatic. 10 seconds later, the lights in the main corridor flickered and died. Emergency lighting activated with a red glow. Pirates shouted to each other, trying to determine if this was an attack or a failure. Go, Lyra said. They crossed the corridor in the confusion. The node room was unguarded. Everyone's attention was on the power failure. Owen set up his scanner while Lyra monitored the hallway. This one is going to be obvious, Owen said. 3 nodes disrupted in sequence will look like a pattern, not random malfunctions. I know, but by the time they realize it, we'll have created enough chaos that they won't know which problems are real and which are sabotage. And then what? We've bought time, but your people are still hostages. Lyra had been thinking about this. The dampeners work on a network. All the nodes feed power to the central generator in the East Tower. If we disrupt enough nodes, the generator has to compensate by drawing more power from the building's main grid. You want to overload the system, not overload. Stress it. Force them to make choices about power distribution. And while they're making those choices, I'm going to do something I should have done years ago. What's that? Stop being invisible. Lyra straightened her shoulders. I'm going to talk to Captain Rook. Face to face. Owen grabbed her arm. That's suicide. He'll kill you or take you hostage. He might, or he might listen, because I'm going to offer him something more valuable than psychic students. Lyra met Owen's eyes. I'm going to offer him complete knowledge of Veyar's defense networks. Something only a person who maintains every system would know. You're bluffing. Partially, but I do know things. Enough to make him interested. Enough to make him hesitate. And in that hesitation, we create an opening. Owen was quiet for a long moment. This is a huge risk. I've been playing it safe for 4 years. It got me nowhere. Lyra checked the node status. Owen's disruption was complete. Your people arrive in 90 minutes. I just need to keep Rook talking and distracted for 90 minutes. Can you coordinate the service staff resistance while I do that? Yes. But Lyra, if this goes wrong, don't be a hero. Your life matters more than proving a point. Maybe, but I'm tired of mattering to no one. She turned and walked toward the main corridor before she could change her mind. Lyra walked into the main hall with her hands visible and empty. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to hide, to return to the safety of invisibility. But she kept walking. The students saw her first, then the teachers. Recognition flickered across their faces, followed by confusion. Why would a servant approach the pirates? Captain Rook stood near the center of the hostages, his scarred face turned toward a tactical display. He looked up as his guards raised their weapons toward Lyra. Hold, Rook commanded. His eyes narrowed. You're not one of the gifted. No glow in your eyes. No fear that you've lost something precious. He stepped closer. Who are you? My name is Lyra Weston. I maintain the systems in this academy. Power, water, communications, environmental controls. Everything the gifted students take for granted. She kept her voice steady. I'm the person who's been sabotaging your operation for the past hour. Silence fell across the hall. The students stared at her with open mouths. The teachers looked shocked. Even the pirates seemed uncertain. Rook laughed. It was not a kind sound. You? One servant girl has been causing all these malfunctions. Not just me. There are 23 service staff in this building. None of us have psychic gifts. Your dampeners don't affect us. We've been coordinating through maintenance channels you didn't know existed. Lyra gestured to the flickering lights above. The environmental problems, the power fluctuations, the security door failures. All deliberate. All designed to make you think your equipment is malfunctioning. Bold of you to admit this. Rook's hand moved to his weapon. Foolish, even. Maybe. But I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to negotiate. Negotiate. Rook's laugh grew harder. What could you possibly offer me? Information. You came here for valuable hostages. Psychic individuals to sell to collectors. But I can give you something more useful. Complete maps of Veyara's planetary defense networks. Access codes to government facilities. Knowledge of how this world's infrastructure actually works. Lyra took a breath. The gifted people run this planet, but people like me keep it running. We know where the real power is, and we're the ones nobody watches. Rook studied her carefully. Why would you betray your own world? Because it's not my world. They made that clear. I am giftless. Worthless. They sent me to clean floors and fix machines while they learned to reshape reality. You think I owe them loyalty? Lyra put bitterness into her voice. It wasn't hard. She had felt that bitterness for 4 years. I'll give you the information in exchange for a safe passage off this planet. Take me with you when you leave. One of the students, a girl named Helena, who had mocked Lyra countless times, spoke up. You can't. That's treason. Treason against what? Lyra turned to face her. Against the society that threw me away? Against the teachers who pretend I don't exist? Against parents who were ashamed of me? She looked back at Rook. I have nothing to lose and everything to gain by leaving. Rook considered this. Lyra could see calculation in his eyes. He was weighing the value of her offer against the risk that she was lying. Prove it, he said finally. Tell me something useful. Something I can verify right now. Lyra had prepared for this. Your dampener network is currently operating at reduced efficiency. 3 of your nodes have been subjected to electromagnetic interference from environmental systems. The disruption pattern suggests your equipment is failing, but it's actually sabotage. If you check Node 7 in the sublevel, Node 12 in the storage wing, and Node 19 on this level, you'll find the field strength has dropped by approximately 6%. Rook gestured to one of his technical officers. The pirate checked a tablet, then nodded confirmation. She's right. Field strength is down exactly as she described. And you did this. With help. But I can undo it just as easily. Or I can tell you how to make it worse. How to actually overload the system if you want to create a distraction during your escape. Lyra was making this up as she went, mixing truth with plausible lies. I also know that human ships are likely inbound. This academy has a diplomatic liaison from Earth. He wasn't in the main hall during your attack. That means he probably got away and called for help. Rook's expression darkened. You're well informed. I listen. People don't watch their words around servants. We hear everything and we're expected to remember nothing. Lyra took a calculated risk. The human liaison's name is Owen Reed, Diplomatic Corps, which means he has military training. If he's free, he's organizing resistance. You should have found him by now. The fact that you haven't means he knows this building well enough to hide. Or he escaped. No, there's nowhere to escape to. Your ships are blocking all exits. He's still here, probably in the service areas, where you're not looking. Rook turned to his second-in-command. Search the maintenance areas. Find this human. As the pirates organized search teams, Lyra felt a moment of panic. She had just put Owen in direct danger. But it was necessary. She needed Rook to believe her information was genuine. The headmaster spoke from his position on the floor. Lyra, don't do this. Whatever grievances you have, this isn't the answer. You don't get to tell me what the answer is, Lyra said coldly. You never cared about finding answers for me before. You were content to let me clean your floors and disappear. Rook smiled at this exchange. I like you, servant girl. You have fire under all that gray clothing. Very well. I'll consider your offer. But first, You'll help my people find this human diplomat. Show us where he might hide. Lyra nodded. This was the dangerous part of her plan. She would have to lead the pirates through the academy, getting close to Owen's position without actually revealing him. She would have to play both sides, making Rook trust her while protecting the one person who had treated her like she mattered. She started walking toward the east corridor. Pirates followed her. Behind them, the students whispered among themselves. Their voices carried words like traitor and ungrateful. Let them think what they wanted. Lyra had spent 4 years caring about their opinions. She was done with that now. What mattered was buying time. Owen's people would arrive soon. She just had to keep this performance going until then, even if it meant making everyone in this academy hate her forever. Lyra led the pirates through the academy's maintenance corridors with deliberate misdirection. She showed them storage rooms where Owen might hide, knowing he would never choose such obvious locations. She pointed out service tunnels that led to dead ends. Every minute she wasted was another minute closer to the human ships arriving. Captain Rook walked beside her, his weapon visible but not aimed. You know this building well, better than anyone. The gifted students see grand halls and meditation chambers. I see the bones underneath, the pipes and wires and ventilation shafts that make everything else possible. Lyra opened another door, revealing an empty mechanical room. Your equipment is sophisticated, but it needs power. Lots of power. Where are you drawing it from? The building's main grid. We tapped into it when we installed the dampeners. That explains the power fluctuations. The grid wasn't designed to handle that much additional load. It's old infrastructure, meant to support psychic activities that barely use electricity. You're stressing systems that haven't been upgraded in decades. Lyra ran her hand along a power conduit. If you're not careful, you could trigger a cascade failure. The whole building could lose power. Rook's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? An observation. I maintain these systems. I know their limits. She looked at him directly. But I could show you how to stabilize the draw. Redistribute the load so you don't risk losing your dampener network at a critical moment. In exchange for proof that you'll honor our agreement, give me access to your ship's database. Let me see that there's actually room for a passenger when you leave. Rook considered this. Then he activated a communicator on his wrist. Bridge, prepare a temporary access credential for our guest. Limited clearance. I want to see how far she's willing to go. They walked back to the main hall. The hostages were still grouped together, looking exhausted and afraid. Helena glared at Lyra with pure hatred. Several teachers wouldn't meet her eyes that a pirate brought Rook a data tablet. He keyed in commands, then handed it to Lyra. Ship's manifest. You can see we have 3 passenger berths available on the command vessel. Lyra took the tablet. The information on screen was real. But as she scrolled through the manifest, she saw something else. A communication log. The pirates had been in contact with someone on Vayara. Someone had given them the Academy's security protocols and the dampener placement locations. Someone here had helped plan this raid. She kept her expression neutral and handed the tablet back. Satisfied? Now, about your power distribution problem. Rook gestured for her to continue. Lyra led him to a maintenance terminal and pulled up the building's power grid schematic. She showed him how the dampener network was creating voltage spikes in 3 key junctions. What she didn't mention was that those spikes were exactly where Owen and the service staff had targeted their disruptions. As she worked, her communicator chirped softly in her pocket. She had set it to vibrate-only mode. 3 short pulses. The signal from Owen. Human ships had entered orbit. 30 minutes until arrival. This junction here, Lyra pointed to the schematic. If you reroute power through the secondary grid, you'll stabilize the dampeners and reduce the fluctuations. Rook studied the display. You're being very helpful for someone who was sabotaging us an hour ago. I chose a side. Mine. If helping you gets me off this planet, then I'll help. Lyra met his gaze without flinching. Unless you think I'm lying, I think you're smart enough to know that lying to me would be fatal. But I also think you're desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Rook leaned closer. Tell me, servant girl, where is the human diplomat really hiding? I don't know. I told you I maintain systems, not people. He could be anywhere in the service areas. Then why haven't we found him? My people have searched for an hour. Because he's human. They think differently than psychic species. They don't rely on abilities or expect others to have them. That makes them adaptable. Unpredictable. Lyra chose her words carefully. If I were him, I'd be moving constantly, never staying in one location long enough to be trapped. Rook activated his communicator. All teams, report status. Responses came in from across the academy. No sign of a human, but several teams reported strange occurrences. Equipment moving on its own. Locked doors that shouldn't be locked. Temperature changes in specific rooms. Lyra recognized Owen's handiwork. He was harassing the search teams, using the service staff to create diversions. Then one of the pirates spoke urgently. Captain, we have incoming ships. Human design. They're demanding we release the hostages and surrender. Rook's expression hardened. Time to leave. Prepare the prisoners for transport to the ships. No. The voice came from the shadows near the ceiling. Owen Reed dropped from a ventilation shaft, landing between Rook and Lyra. He held a pirate weapon he must have taken from a guard. Nobody's taking these people anywhere. Pirates raised their weapons, but Owen was already moving. He grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind a support pillar as energy blasts scorched the air where they had stood. Sorry I'm late, Owen said. Had to coordinate with the cavalry. The building shook as human ships positioned themselves in low orbit. A voice boomed through external speakers, demanding immediate surrender. Rook snarled orders to his people. Get the hostages to the transport ships. Now! But the students and teachers weren't moving. The dampener field was flickering. The disruptions Lyra and Owen had created were finally cascading through the network. Psychic abilities were returning in brief, random bursts. Helena raised her hand, and a pirate flew backward, slammed by telekinetic force. Other students began to fight back with erratic bursts of power. The orderly raid became chaos. Owen pulled Lyra toward the exit. Time to go. The service staff are evacuating through the underground tunnels. Wait. Lyra turned back to Rook, who was shouting orders into his communicator. Someone here helped you. Someone gave you the security codes and dampener locations. Who was it? Rook's smile was vicious. Ask your precious headmaster. He was tired of human diplomats telling him how to run his academy. Thought a raid would prove psychic societies don't need Earth's protection. The headmaster's face went pale. Helena and other students turned toward him with shock and betrayal in their eyes. But I didn't, the headmaster stammered. I would never. Your credentials were used to access the security network 6 times in the past month, Lyra said quietly. I saw in the logs. I thought it was routine maintenance. But it wasn't, was it? You let them in. The headmaster had no answer. Human soldiers were breaching the building now. The pirates began to retreat, abandoning the failed raid. Rook escaped through a window, his armor protecting him from the fall. Owen kept his weapon raised until the last pirate was gone. Then he lowered it and looked at Lyra. You took a hell of a risk. Someone had to. And for once, it wasn't going to be someone with gifts saving the day. Lyra looked around at the students and teachers. They needed to see that people without powers can matter too. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council investigated the raid. The headmaster was removed from his position. The Academy's discriminatory practices were exposed. Other giftless individuals across Viara began speaking about their treatment. Lyra received offers from the Academy, apologies from her parents, recognition she had never wanted. She turned them all down. Instead, she accepted Owen's invitation to Earth's Diplomatic Academy. He gave her a red jacket like his own, the symbol of people who refused to be ignored. On her last day at the Crystalline Academy, Lyra walked through the halls one final time. Students and teachers watched her pass, some with respect, some with resentment. All of them finally seeing her, that a young girl in a gray service uniform approached her hesitantly. Is it true that you're leaving? Yes. But who will maintain the systems? Who will keep everything running? Lyra smiled. You will. And when you do, remember that the work isn't lesser just because people with gifts don't notice it. You matter. Your knowledge matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The girl nodded, standing a little straighter. Lyra left Viara behind without looking back. The transport climbed toward the human ship waiting in orbit. Owen sat across from her. Ready to learn how humans turned being ordinary into being extraordinary? He asked. I think I already know the secret, Lyra said. You just refuse to accept anyone else's definition of what extraordinary means. Owen smiled. You're going to do well on Earth. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying Lyra toward a world where having no gifts was simply being human. And being human was enough.